Today we are finding elapsed time. What does that mean? Well, let's find out. Today we are going to answer the questions, what does elapsed time mean? And how can I use a timeline to figure out elapsed time? So it makes sense to start with, well, what the heck is elapsed time? It's the time that passes from the beginning of something, an activity, a period of time, to the end. We're talking about something like this. Here's an example. Carson began baseball practice at 6:30. Practice lasted an hour and 15 minutes. What time did it end? So the time between the beginning of practice and the end of practice is the elapsed time. This is a pretty common kind of question for elapsed time for 4th grade, where they give you a beginning time and want to know what time it ended, or give you an end time and ask you what time something began. So an easy way to work on that is to use a timeline. Here's how it works. I've drawn myself some space for my timeline. So now I want to take a second and take a look at my problem and make sure I understand what is the beginning and what is the ending. Practice began at 6:30. So there's my starting time. What time is the end? I don't know. That's what it's asking me. It wants to know what time it ended. So I have a beginning, but not an end. So I'll take that to the beginning of my timeline then. So we know we started at 6:30. And our variable, what we don't know, is the ending time. We also know that practice lasted an hour, which of course means just one. Oops. And 15 minutes. So that's how much time elapsed. An hour and 15 minutes elapsed from 6:30 until the end of practice. Well, to use my timeline, I'm going to work with my hours first. And you see it tells me an hour. So let's hop from 6:30 1 hour ahead. And an hour from 6:30 is 7:30. And I finished with my hours, so now it's time to do minutes. 15 minutes is a pretty simple round figure to work with, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. We're going to make a smaller hop from 7:30 to 15 minutes later, which is 30 plus 15, 45. So we make our second hop, and practice ends at 7:45. Let's take a look at another problem. Mason began raking leaves at 1:30 in the afternoon. It took him 2 hours and 20 minutes to finish. What time was it when he was done? Well, let's get our timeline ready to roll. There, I'm all set. Go ahead and put one of these into your notebook too. Stop the video just a second. Go ahead and draw yourself a timeline in that video, and then we'll be ready to work this one together. So the next thing I need to ask myself, am I looking for a starting time or an ending time? Well, Mason began raking leaves at 1:30 in the afternoon, and began, of course, is a signal word telling me that he started at that time. So he started at 1:30 in the afternoon. Then it took him 2 hours and 20 minutes. So there's our elapsed time. That's how much time elapses between the 1:30 when he started, and we don't know what time it was when it ended. That's our job. That's what it's time to figure out. So let's take it to the timeline. When did he start? Oh, he started at 1:30. So let's start our timeline at 1:30. All right, there we go. Okay, how many hours are we going to jump? Well, here it is, 2 hours. So this time we need 2-hour jumps. Go ahead and make them in your notebook and I'll check. There's 1 hour, and 1 hour after 1:30, it's 2:30. We need our second hour. Okay, and now it's 3:30. And so we're done with hours. And now we need 20 minutes. Well, that's a nice round number. So let's go with that for a smaller jump of 20 minutes. And 3:30 plus 20, that'll make it 3:50. If you're ever doing something that has a lot of hops, it's not ever a bad idea to label your tops too, as that's a 1 hour jump, that's a 1 hour jump, and that's a 20-minute jump. And then you've got it all labeled and you can explain back to a teacher or anyone else, like a partner, what you did. Well, here's a problem that doesn't have any hours, and it's going to probably be a little more complicated. Mason got slammed with homework. He had 45 minutes of math, 25 minutes of science, and then he had to read for 30 minutes. If he begins at 3:30, what time will it be when he's done? Well, again, let's start with our handy dandy timeline. Okay, you'll notice that the problem gives us a beginning time of 3:30. So there's our starting point. And again, they're asking when will he be done? So we know the beginning but not the end. Well, the beginning is 3:30. The end is who knows. So he's going to go to 45 minutes. Well, that's not a whole hour. And this one's a little bit tougher because we have to go 45 minutes after 3:30. You know that half an hour, 30 minutes, will take you to 4 o'clock, and then the other 15 minutes will land you at 4:15. All right, so we got the 45-minute one taken care of. Now we're going to hop 25 minutes. It's a smaller hop. Well, 15 plus 25 gives me 40, so our next time will be 4:40. 2 down, 1 to go. We've done 45 minutes, we've done 25 minutes. The last thing to do is to take me another 30 minutes. 4:40 plus 30 minutes. Well, 4:40 plus 20 minutes will take me to 5 o'clock. That leaves 10 minutes left over, and that will leave me at 5:10. So if he starts at 3:30, he will be finished at 5:10. Now, all the problems we've done have given us beginning problems, or beginning times, but not ending times. Can it go the other way? Well, of course it can. And this is an example of that. I've got my timeline already. Now let's take a look at the problem. Zoe's soccer practice ended at 8:30. So this time, instead of a beginning time, I've got an ending time. If practice was 2 hours and 15 minutes, oops, what time did they start? So this one's a little different. I've got an ending time, but I don't have a beginning time. So it's really not complicated. We're just going to hop the other direction. It was 2 hours, so we're going to pop back 2 hours. Here we go. 1 hour takes us to 7:30. Let's pop back 1 more hour to make a total of 2 hours. And that'll take us to 6:30. Whoop. There we go. So we've taken care of our 2 hours. Now we just got to handle our 15 minutes. Little hop. Whoop. This one's only 15 minutes. So 6:30, 30 minutes minus 15 minutes gives me 15 minutes. So she would have started practice at 6:15. And there's our starting time. Practice ended at 8:30. 2 hours and 15 minutes elapsed between the starting time and the ending time, which means that practice began promptly at 6:15. So today we answered the questions, what does elapsed time mean? Well, it's the time between something beginning and something ending. 2 points in time, elapsed time is the time in the middle. How can I use a timeline to figure out elapsed time? Use a timeline by hopping forward your hours and minutes if you need an end time. Or if you've got an end time and you need a start time, hop backwards in time, first your hours, then your minutes. Easy peasy. We'll try it in class.